actual rain, but it looks like it. So just wanted to give a few minutes to see if everyone would get here. Good evening. I am David Van Ostall, and I have the privilege to be Superintendent for Arcadia Unified School District. If you have been to one of our school board meetings, you would notice that it looks very different tonight. Normally, we would have our school board at their dais, and they would be conducting an agenda of business. Board meetings are doing board business, but in the public, so that it's transparent. That's very different from tonight. Tonight was a special meeting that we called because we wanted to make sure that we provided ample opportunity for the community, students, parents, staff, alumni, to be able to come and share their thoughts, opinions, questions on the topic of the use of the Apache name for Arcadia High School. So we have a very simple setup tonight, and that's just so that we have an opportunity to listen. Tonight the board is here. They're just not on stage. They are here to listen along with you and the staff, and I hope for those in attendance, especially if you're here to speak, that you also have the opportunity to listen as well. I'll be honest, I didn't think we would be able to revisit this topic so soon. And if you recall that this topic really came to a head kind of right during the lockdown of the pandemic. And there was a lot going on. And in that time, I wrote an open letter on behalf of the board and staff and just asked for space and grace during this very difficult time of the pandemic, especially during that lockdown time, where we were focused on safety for our 8,500 students and a couple thousand staff members. And you did that, so I just want to say thank you for that time and that grace. We are still in a pandemic. But thankfully, and I just want to take an opportunity because they're here with us tonight, our school board members from the moment we went into lockdown made some very decisive directions for our district that leaned into our values. First and foremost, safety of our students and staff, and unwilling to move away from that priority. And then secondly, trying to minimize all the disruptions to teaching and learning as much as possible because our kids don't get do-overs. So there's that safety first, but then secondly, right above that, what is it that we can do to maintain that excellent education for our kids? And they stuck to that, and they stuck to that direction, even in a lot of heat, a lot of districts doing a lot of different things, and we're getting compared to everyone and everything every day because of them in that direction. I'm proud to say that as we're here tonight, we have 8,500 students in class full-time, in person, back focused on teaching and learning. We've had a couple cases of COVID-19 from students. None of those COVID cases were transmitted at school. So to this day, we've not had any transmissions at school. I think that speaks volumes of our community first and what you're doing to be responsible for yourself and for those around you. And secondly, the guidance and the direction of our board. Could you help me just give them a round of applause for that? So with us tonight, we have our president this year, it's Lee Chavez. We have board member Fenton in, if you please stand up, Fenton. Board member Shirley Yee, Shirley. Board member Raymond Chung. And board member Kay Kinsler. Thank you. So over this last couple years, about a year and a half, I should say, I had a lot of opportunities because of my position to have conversations about this topic of the Apache name. And with that, sometimes it was 20 years alumni, 30 alumni from 30 years ago, 1 year ago graduated students, parents. And in those conversations, I've made a couple of observations, and I just want to share them before we jump into this tonight. The first one is, no matter how long someone has been away from Arcadia, they still care deeply about this place. I mean, the schools, and I don't mean just the high school, they'll tell me the elementary and the middle they went to and the teachers they had. They care deeply about the high school, their experiences, and they tell me about the friends that they continue to stay connected to as an alumni. That says something. Regardless of your opinion and where you stand on this topic, and this is a complex issue, that understanding that our graduates and you, as you're here to speak, are passionate about something from your alma mater or your current high school or the school that your kids attend. It says something about this community, and it's unique, and it's why I choose to work here, along with my colleagues. So thank you for that. The second thing is that when I am approached by other superintendents, especially when we went through the facilities growth area, where we were building wonderful new buildings on all of our campuses, including this facility here, one of the things people would say to me is, oh my gosh, in other districts, like, we want that. Like, I'd give anything to have a program like that. And I'd always stop people and I'd say, listen, let's be clear. I really appreciate where we're sitting in right now and what this is and what it does. It does not make a program. Let's be clear about that. The programs are made by people, right? If you look at any of our music or athletics, or you name it in Arcadia, any of those excellent world-class programs, they are created by people that have committed years and years. They're created by parents that have committed, that make sacrifices to live here, by students that give everything, including sleep a lot of times, to be that excellent. It's the same with this. And I don't want to minimize the topic at all, because we put a lot of resources and we care deeply about this very complex issue that's important to us. But as I get older, I also like to keep life in perspective. And I just want to remind people that we are not about a name. The alumni I talked about, very successful alumni that are sharing their experiences and how that parlayed to their success in college, their success in life, and the connections they have. That doesn't change by a name. We are the people that we are. We are a community that holds education in a high level of excellence, and that whole child. And I just greatly appreciate that and never want anyone to forget that. So let's talk about logistics so we can get on with some comments. As I look out, I see some familiar faces, and then I see some faces that are new. So I want to make sure that when we did tonight, that we just briefly had a grounding presentation, and I mean brief, that just allows us to know where are we today. Because if you're a graduate and you've been away for many years, you may know where we are, you may not have been back at all. So I just wanted to make sure that we had an idea of where are we with the use of the Apache name today, and that work that's been going on for many years now with our Student Council Apache Commission. And I believe Kathy and Isabella are here to do a brief presentation. Are you here? Come on up. Once they're finished with their few words, come on up. We have a couple of mics, or you can use this one. Still getting used to those progressive glasses.
I'm not Isabella. I'm going to pretend to be Isabella.
Hello, my name is Kathy, and I am an SCC Student Council Apache Commission co-chair.
My name is Mrs. Moore. I am not Isabella, who is also an SCAC co-chair. Today, the Student Council Apache Commission would like to present you a brief history of Arcadia High School's relationship with the White Mountain Apache tribe.
At Arcadia High School, the designation is the Apache. It is important to recognize that HS does not have a mascot, but a designation, because the Apaches are a real, diverse, and contemporary group of people. It's imperative that the Apache name and designation only be used in a respectful manner and never in a derogatory way, as this would be a direct insult to not only the White Mountain Apaches, but all indigenous people.
The Apache name and designation were chosen in a citywide contest in 1952, when there was high interest and great enthusiasm surrounding Native American culture. At the time, it was believed that the Apaches conveyed a, quote, fighting spirit that would well represent Arcadia High School. Unfortunately, in Arcadia High's past, the Apaches have been represented in highly disrespectful ways. This led to indigenous activists campaigning against Arcadia's use of the Apache name and designation in the late 1990s, prompting meetings between tribal leaders, Arcadia High School, Alchisi High School on the White Mountain Apache Reservation in White River, Arizona.
Ultimately, the tribal leaders did give their consent to the Arcadia High to continue using the Apache name and designation. Since then, AHS has taken significant steps to better and properly respect the Apache people. In order to better maintain Arcadia High School's relationship with the White Mountain Apaches, the SCAC was formed in 1999. SCAC is an on-campus organization of students currently advised by Mrs. Moore. Every year, SCAC holds multiple donation drives to either purchase or directly donate items and funds to the White Mountain Apache Reservation in White River, Arizona. One example from this past year was SCAC's Spring Money Drive, in which monetary donations were collected in order to purchase books, school supplies, and gift cards for the White Mountain Apache community. The Ed Schreiner Memorial Toy and Jacket Drive will be this December.
It is extremely important that AHS continues to uphold a standard of respect and hire as long as its designation is the Apache. Last year, a group of current and former Arcadia students reached out to the White Mountain Apache chairwoman, Gwenda Lee Gatewood, about Arcadia's designation. This led to a series of meetings between some members of the White Mountain Apache community and the Arcadia High School community. We heard them say that the Apache people currently feel forgotten in America. They feel like they are confined to a history book and are not seen as a contemporary people. They ask that we continue to be the Apaches, and they ask that Arcadia educate their students about Apache culture.
Arcadia High School's relationship with the White Mountain Apaches is alive, ongoing, and consists of real people with real voices who have a right to their identity. Arcadia administration and SAC hope to make resources regarding the White Mountain Apaches and their unique culture more easily accessible soon and incorporate this information into Arcadia High School's curriculum. As Chairwoman Gatewood of the White Mountain Apache tribe describes, Apaches have been known since time immemorial for being resilient and having the will to survive in tough circumstances. Despite any challenge we may face, the ancestors of before gave us these bloodlines that still remain today. We strongly encourage you all to visit their website, whitemountainapache.org, to learn more about the White Mountain Apaches and their culture. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. On the screen behind me, if you have not had a chance to view all of the results, we've had this thought exchange open for a couple of weeks. You can go to our website and get the link, or you can hit the QR code right now, and that will give you access to read every thought that was shared. You can even divide it out by groups and separate it by students or staff, and you truly can read every comment that was written. So a lot of good information there. I know some people commented that came in that they took a look at it before they came in, so I appreciate that. All right, we have scheduled 3 minutes. I'm going to call an audible and say 5, because I know some people have some prepared things. I want to make sure that people get through anything they've shared, and we don't have that many speakers. So Amber, you'll be able to modify that? Okay, did you hear that up top? All right, so the way this is going to work is you have a number when you came in if you asked to speak. If you want to speak and you did not get a number, you can still do that. You go out to the lobby, and there is a desk, and they will give you a number. And we're just going to ask you in a minute or so here to line up, and we'll just go one by one in the order that you signed in. Rachel will meet you over here, and you'll come across. Microphones there. Please just state your name and your affiliation with Arcadia, and then please take your 5 minutes and share. At 4 minutes, Amber is going to put up a yellow sheet just to kind of give you, that's a warning. You got about a minute to wrap up, And then at 5, she will put up the red card. It's kind of like the Oscars, but with no music. We just ask that you be respectful, and we'll be respectful of you as well. Obviously, that's why we're here to listen to you, but we do want to get through the speakers, and so we'll use 5 minutes. I have an ask of you tonight. I was being interviewed by one of our digital interns, and they said, "What do you hope for tonight?" And it's a big question, obviously. I've been talking about this and thinking about this for a long time. But the thing that came to my mind first was civil discourse. It's something that some people would argue we're beginning to lose in our society. I refuse. I refuse as an educator, as a superintendent, as a member of this community. I believe it is an absolute foundation of who we are as a free society. And I think we have opportunities as a community like Arcadia, that anytime we get an opportunity to model that we can be tough on issues and we can be soft on people. We can disagree and we can still like each other. We can have strong opinions. That's what my hope is for tonight, that we have an opportunity to hear many voices, passionate voices about this really important topic, and that our school board has an opportunity then to hear those and go back and be able to have a discussion about this as we move forward. So that's my ask, that's my hope. So let's get started. So if we could have, yeah. The school board would have a public conversation about what they heard tonight and start to share their thoughts. Okay? All board work is done in public, so that will be at a public meeting. Yeah. So let's have numbers. I guess we'll go ahead and have 1 through 6, I believe. How many we have? Yeah. Just go ahead and come over to the wings, and that way you guys are ready to go, and we will give you the mic.
Good evening. My name is Mark Burston. I'm a community member. I had I had 2 boys. One graduated in 08 from Arcadia, and one in 13. So I'd rather be watching football. My big plans for the night were putting my eye drops in. But since I kind of started this, I felt I should show up. So I really thought when I wrote that letter to the superintendent that this was like a no-brainer. And then, to be honest with you, I was a little surprised by that. So I come tonight with excitement and a little bit of sadness, in all honesty. And I ask you to come to this, like Superintendent Van Alsdale said, with an open heart, an open mind. We're not all going to agree tonight, okay? But, great presentation by the students, or one student and one proxy. And I have to admit, I want to be as polite as possible. I know Superintendent for years, and I don't agree with 100%. I also know how government operates. I now work for the government. And it's not a coincidence that we got this glowing little presentation by the students that fits exactly how the administration wants you to hear how it went. And in all honesty, how the name was selected in 1952, I don't know. If that's the story, that's the story, but this is not Arcadia of 1952. In all honesty, the blood that flows from my white skin was not probably accepted in 1952. And a lot of people sitting in this room probably would not have been accepted by the people that made that name in 1952. I don't believe that we have any true connection. It was an arbitrary name. It was done in maybe in innocence, and we're just not that same people now. So let's be clear. I think we should take the name away. I don't think we need to be there. I think having the students involved is great when the administration wants to do whatever they want. When the school board and administration want to do whatever they want, they then make clear, decisive action and statements, just like they did during COVID. I know from experience with one of my sons, he was in a certain academy. When they decided to get rid of it, there was no input by me or the other parents, they just made the change. And also to have students involved is great, but I also don't feel they're really on equal grounding, because unfortunately, if they don't agree with administration, I listened to the podcast about this occurrence, and the way it was edited was still like, but we got the blessing of the White Mountain Apache, so it's all okay. It's not equal grounding. The students can't, the ones that do speak out probably are edited and told to cool it. The ones that agree with what's going on, then you hear about it. If they, it's not equal, because if the student wants a letter of rec later on to go to college, they may not get it. I know with one of my sons, he stood up for something, started a petition, and the faculty advisor said, you either drop it or you'll be removed from this organization too. So I have seen how things sometimes can operate. Again, I really just think that the name should be, I have 3 pharmacists that I work with at different levels of connection at the County of Los Angeles. They're all alumni of this school, and they all were like, yeah, they all signed a petition. I also want to mention that even though there's not a huge turnout today, over 10,000 people did sign a petition saying change the name. Everyone I met, I've never met anyone that said they're an Apache. They say, I went to Arcadia. I'm a graduate of Arcadia. So, I just think we need to really look at that, look into our hearts. We don't need to get in as a racist, what happened, whatever. You know if it's right or wrong. A lot of us come from different ethnic backgrounds, and if somehow we were made to say, oh, you're proud and fierce and a strong fighter, that doesn't mean we're still not being, making a caricature of us. So that's really all I have to say. I hope that you understand where I'm coming from, and that's it. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Dan Dock, a retired Arcadia teacher, also father of 2 AUSD graduates, and a resident of Arcadia. I was also quite involved in the Arcadia Music Club as a former president, and still help every year with the annual festival meetings. Because of my involvement with the music club, I got a phone call a few years ago asking if I could drive a rental truck over to Arizona filled with donations, clothes and toys and bikes to the White Mountain Apaches. I was proud to do that, and I was given this shirt as a gesture of appreciation. I became interested in revisiting the Apache nickname as a result of a letter from Dr. Von Alsdahl, dated June 4th, 2020. In it, he stated, quote, as we move forward, we believe AUSD has a responsibility and an opportunity to elevate these difficult conversations in a commitment to a better tomorrow. Unquote. Additionally, from a statement on Arcadia Unified Statement on Racial Inequalities, was this quote, we must also indeed learn from our past failures to ensure they're not repeated. Even though these words were largely written as a result of the murder of George Floyd, it made me think about areas of influence in which I could make a difference. That's why I'm here. I see 3 questions that arise in this issue. Number 1, is using the nickname appropriate if it's approved by Apaches? Well, I did a brief internet research, and I came up with at least 13 different Apache tribes. White Mountain Apaches are one of 13 of the western tribes. And I think to use the name in any good sense, we would have to get approval from all of those tribes. We're looking at one Apache tribe. Number 2, why should we break the ties that we currently have with the White Mountain Apaches? Well, I don't think we should. I think we keep on supporting intercultural ties with the SCAC. I'd hate to think that we just use use the name on kind of like a quid pro quo basis. And finally, number 3, how is the use of the name like Apaches seen in the 21st century? Not in the 1950s, not in the 1990s, but right now. To answer that, I'd like to refer to a statement I found written by some Indian leaders on a website called rednation.org. They had a 10-point program of respect for their peoples. This was number 7. The end to the dehumanization of Native peoples. The appropriation of, this is from quote from their proclamation, the appropriation of Native imagery and culture for entertainment, such as sports mascots and other racist portrayals, dehumanize Native people and attempt to whitewash ongoing histories of genocide and dispossession. These appropriations contribute to the ongoing erasure of Native peoples and seek to minimize the harsh realities and histories of colonization. These appropriations are crimes against history. It's time for AUSD to be on the right side of history. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm timing myself because I know I can speak long. My name is Paulson Wang. I am an alum of Arcadia High, community member, grew up in this community. My family grew up in this community, went to Arcadia schools, my parents did. And, you know, for me, I'm really proud to be an alum of Arcadia because of not just the tools and the education I've received here, but community spirit. And I think one thing that was clear from my time in Arcadia schools, from Longley to Dana to here Arcadia High, is that the spirit of our schools and who's represented by our schools are our students, right? I believe the custodians of, you know, what it means to be an Arcadia community member is held by the student body at any given time that they are members of that body, right? There are always going to be more alum than current students of our schools. That's just a fact, especially since our school has been around since the early 50s. And I think it's important to know that students are the current custodians of our school spirit. Just looking at what they've done for homecoming, they are certainly those custodians, and they should have a significant voice in the direction that we take this conversation. I think it's also important to note, and the last speaker just mentioned this as well, there's no reason for us to sever any relationship with the White Mountain Apaches, no matter what direction the board decides to take this, right? There is no reversal of history that's possible for us to have not used this designation and previously this mascot in any way, shape, or form. So that relationship must continue. There must also be a recognition that we need to also do better to uplift what Native communities have experienced in this country. We could do better just about what Apache tribes have endured in this country. That's certainly something I know, at least 10 years ago, when I was an Arcadia student, I did not really understand, right? So I do want to applaud the work that SCHC continues to do. I think that's incredibly important and still necessary down the line, no matter where this goes. But I think it's important to think about where we are today and think about who the current custodians of what it means to be an Arcadia student and community member, and use that as the guiding principles for how we move forward. Because ultimately, you know, we're going to continue to graduate, but this conversation will only continue if we don't really recognize who we should be really engaging with. And I think it's also important just to remember, I think also this was mentioned already, that, you know, the Apache people are a diverse group of people. Just like how Arcadia High has a diverse community, this is not a singular tribe, right? This is not a singular voice that can be, you know, thumbs up or thumbs down on any singular decision. And so expanding that conversation and bringing more people into this conversation is the only way I think we can move forward. Thank you.
Good evening. Yacht Asia Tracy Perez and Chef, and I'm
My name is Tracy Perez. I'm an enrolled member of the Navajo Nation, and I am a parent of 2 high school students here and 1 elementary student and a former high school student of Arcadia Unified School District. And I'm a commissioner with the Los Angeles City and County I'm actually a county elected commissioner. And I'm actually coming as a parent, not as a commissioner, because I just want to address that it is very difficult to address something such as this, because personally, I feel the name Arcadia isn't as offensive as Redskins. And if some of you have done research on the meaning of Redskins, it was very a horrific time for this state, actually, that put out bounties for Native Americans, Indians to be portrayed under that title. But again, I just want to come to you as a parent. So I personally believe that American Indian mascots is utilized as symbols, whether it's in schools, universities, or professional sports athletic programs, is troubling. Schools are a place of learning, and these mascots are teaching stereotypical and misleading and often insulting images of American Indians. It also undermines the ability of American Indians to be portrayed accurately and respectfully of the image of our culture, our spiritualities, and our traditions, and educational experience of all the communities, especially those who have little or no contact with Indigenous peoples. Instead of this, so this is my recommendation or my solution. I know we always have to come with some sort of solutions or some sort of recommendation, and I think that instead of using a mascot, there should be an opportunity for the schools to be able to create some sort of opportunity of engagement to possibly, since you have a connection with the San Carlos Apache, to revisit them and utilize some sort of other name that respects the tribe and also the Indigenous community. And also possibly fostering a respectful, educational, and unique partnership with the local community as well. And just a reminder, you are on San Gabriel Tonga land. And I think it's important to look into the local Indigenous communities and tribes to gain some partnership to educate. And as a parent, I've been a parent of Arcadia Unified since 2009. I have only seen twice in this whole district any acknowledgement of American Indians. Twice I have brought American Indian dancers to give education, to inform the district. I have not since seen any type of involvement in the community. Through the Los Angeles Indian Commission, we have various resources, connections that the school could utilize to bring more opportunity to educate the community. Whether it's through cultural education, whether it's through Native American Indian History Month, which actually comes up next month. And I have not seen any acknowledgement to address those. So I think just coming out, reaching out to the community. There's parents here. As far as our research and survey that we collected through the commission, you have 8 students here at Arcadia Unified School District that identify or that are officially enrolled members of the tribe. So I think that it's best that you guys kind of reach out. We're here, we're still here, we'll always be here to help out. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I want to thank Superintendent Van Alstall for hosting this very important forum tonight. My name is Sharon Wetterow, and I'm a community member and a resident and a parent of 2 kids who are in or here in the high school. Tonight, I want to share why I believe we should no longer use the Apache name to represent our school. When we first moved to Arcadia in 2010, I came to Arcadia High for an event, and in the parking lot, I saw an Asian or an Asian American student from this high school preparing for an event sponsored by the school. Perhaps it was a football game. This person was dressed in Indian attire with a headdress. I was taken aback, and I couldn't believe my eyes. Frankly, I was shocked, and I was really embarrassed that our high school would allow this practice. To mascot a group of people who have been historically oppressed in this country is harmful and demeaning, even if they are not being portrayed in an obviously negative light. We call this process othering, and it has damaging effects. In case you don't know, mascotting started in the early 1900s with the Boston Braves and the Cleveland Indians, perhaps as a way to show that their teams were mighty and strong. And while the teams didn't intend to be offensive, they were promoting a very negative stereotype and image that has long been held, that indigenous people were warriors and uncivilized. This led to the practice of civilizing Native Americans beginning in the 1800s and through the 1930s, when indigenous children were sent to Indian boarding schools and not allowed to speak their language, practice their religion, or participate in ceremonial dances, while non-indigenous people could wear what they thought was indigenous attire and dance on the sidelines. If anyone here has ever been or participated in a real powwow, you would immediately see why witnessing non-indigenous people wearing feathers and indigenous-like attire mocks their ceremonies and traditions. The American Psychological Association in 2009 also shared the sentiment that using indigenous people as mascots undermines, or even a name designation, undermines the educational experiences of members of all communities, especially those who've had little or no contact with indigenous people. It insidiously reinforces stereotypes and creates harmful psychological effects on all people. It also explicitly and, worse off, implicitly gives others permission to stereotype and unknowingly demean other marginalized groups, such as Asians, Asian Americans, Pacific Islanders, African Americans, Latinx folks, and others, even if they don't intend to. We call these offenses microaggressions. While I understand that some members of the White Mountain Apache Nation feel otherwise, there is a power imbalance at play here that other speakers have referenced between Arcadia and our tribe. They may feel compelled to approve this practice of name designation because they are receiving support from us. I believe that to truly honor the Apaches is to remove the Apaches name and continue to support them financially. We should have their history and the history of other indigenous people, including the Tonga people whose land on which we stand, more deeply incorporated into our school curriculum. I urge our school district to walk the walk and model a safe and respectful learning environment for all, and to take this courageous step in making a name change. I welcome an opportunity to dialogue with administrators and the board further on this issue. Thank you very much.
Hi all, my name is Mario Porgione. I'm a 2017 alum from Arcadia High School and now going to UC Irvine. So many of us know the special relationship that we have with the White Mountain Apache. This is a long-lasting and honorable relationship with the tribe. As talked about earlier with the chairwoman of the tribe, that we have a proud relationship with them, and that she says that we're proud to know that Arcadia High School and the Apaches bear our name. We have the full blessing of the White Mountain Apache tribe. Just as we elect leaders to represent us, the White Mountain Apache have leaders that represent them. What would it mean to the Apache if we changed our name because we didn't feel that it wasn't good enough for us? We Arcadia Apaches bear our name for the same simple reason that people leave names on tombstones, name parks and monuments after people or historic events. and that reason is lest we forget. Many of us alumni here tonight remember the late days of cramming for finals, being emboldened, loving our friends, and losing some. We were then and we are now Arcadia Apaches. The name Apache for Arcadia High School is not named out of anger, racism, or spite, but it was named out of honor and adoration for the Apache name and spirit that we all have inside of us. And to not a better school this blessing could have been given to, being ranked top 1% in the nation in STEM in 2018, having alumni receiving the Medical Nobel Prize in 2011, having a nationally ranked student body, faculty, and administrative staff, a nationally recognized track team, and marching band. How many schools can say that? Many of us, all of us, we honor this name and this title that we have at Arcadia High School, both current students and alumni. Arcadia keeps the tribe name alive and is passionately honored by its students. With all my time at Arcadia High School, I've never seen any events of like racism or poking fun at the Apache name. So to me, that is a great surprise, but I wasn't here at 2010. To change the Apache name would be a dishonor to the Apache people, and specifically the White Mountain Apache, the ones who we have a great relationship with. We would lose our trust with the tribe and our alumni. As I was reading some of the comments that people posted, people from the alumni said, "You're not going to have our support anymore." Members of the board, you too are Arcadia Apaches. If we gave in now to changing our school, the day will soon come when the activists say animal names cannot be degraded to a school mascot or representation of our school. You cannot bear the name of a man or woman because of their previous sins. Perhaps a day will come where we might not even have any mascots. And what a sad day that will be for our alumni and our youth. And one of my favorite movies, Seven Samurai, the Master Samurai says this, that we all need a flag to get behind and a banner to carry into battle. For us Arcadians, this banner is the Apache name. Something else that I heard that was like wonderful and interesting insight was that we'll never be on equal ground with the Apache tribe. But then again, none of us here will ever be on equal ground with one another. We all have unique backgrounds, different backstories, different experiences. None of us, no matter how hard we try, will ever be able to equate ourselves to another person in their experience. And yes, there are things that we can do to greater develop a connection with the entire Apache people, the entire Apache nation. But I think that's something that we need to have excellent representatives to do. And I think this is something that our student body and also our administrative staff from our school can help cater and foster this environment for growth for our students. Yeah, thank you.
Hello everyone, I'm Kate Fletcher and I am a current senior at Arcadia High School. And I'm going to start off with a confession. To be honest, when I first heard about this issue, I didn't think there was anything wrong with our mascot. I mean, we have permission from the White Mountain Apaches, right? Well, it's a lot more complicated than that. What changed my mind was when I found a singular speech by Danielle DeClay back in 1999, the last time this issue was formally addressed. The poem was read to Arcadia students and faculty that traveled to Apache High School, which was 98% White Mountain Apache. Here are just a couple of lines from her very long and very detailed speech. Quote, "As they have done in the past, these whites again clasped hold unto something of ours that they don't understand. They took our land, they took our language, and now they dare to take the name that has represented our people throughout history. The name of our people, the Apaches, is a name that wasn't made for any other people, any other kind but us. How can non-Native Americans ever begin to think that they've somehow earned the right to be called by a name that is ours? Our skin and our religion means nothing in your hands. Instead of respecting and representing us, you disgrace us. The war between the cowboy and Indians will never be over. You've taken almost everything from us. In the very least, I ask that you leave us our name. Leave our heritage, our religion, our language, our ways, and our name alone." End quote. Her speech was published by the Advocates for American Indian Children. In the same place, you can find emails from Apache members to HS admin. Their associate principal wrote,
When all who wished to do so had spoken, the consensus of the Apache students was that Arcadia High School should not use the name Apaches. And in a later email, she added, "You treated our students with disrespect and a total lack of honesty. You chose to ignore everything they told you. I do not care to have any more dealings with you or your administration." End quote. The Apache student body president also wrote, "Many students did not appreciate the fact that this controversy was what sparked a sudden interest in Apache culture. Not only did Apaches disapprove of our mascot, but so did other indigenous people." I will now read some quotes from an LA Times article published in the year 2000 about this issue. Native American activists had been pressing the Arcadia School Board to get rid of the Apache mascot for 2 years. They have accused him of misrepresenting Arcadia High to tribal leaders in Arizona. They printed signs depicting the principal as a grand wizard of the Ku Klux Klan. That is from an LA Times article. I hope you will take this history into careful consideration. Why can we have this mascot now when we ignored all of those people then? Arcadia High School is an incredible place, and I love going to school here. And I'm not just saying that for this, but I really mean it. I am beyond thankful that our communities are being listened to. But we don't need this mascot to keep HS incredible, and we don't need this mascot to support the White Mountain Apaches. And yes, it is a mascot. It doesn't matter what we try to call it by; it's always going to be a mascot. Also, according to Change.org, over 10,000 others agree with me. How can a student body where nobody chose to represent the Apaches properly represent the Apaches? I would also like to note that I am color guard captain at Arcadia High School, and earlier this year, we voted to get new costumes. Our old one were very, very obvious allusion to indigenous culture, and a lot of us felt very, very uncomfortable wearing it. So earlier this year, we were blessed to get new costumes, and I can confidently say that for the first time stepping out, I felt proud to be an Arcadian and not embarrassed and scared that I was offending people. Because I know that I was, considering all these people that did not like our mascot like indigenous people. So thank you very much.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Becky, and I'm a senior at Arcadia High School, and I'm also speaking as a representative of Arcadia Civic Youth Council, and I'm here hoping to amplify the voice of students. Now, throughout the discussion, throughout all the speakers we've heard, I think that we can all agree on one thing, which is that we really need to increase our outreach to all Apaches, including White Mountain Apaches. And just from my observations over the past year, and especially in the summer, a lot of the outreach to the Apache people were initiated by students, which is a great thing. It was students from Change That Emblem who first set up the meeting with Chairwoman Gatewood. It was students who set up the meeting with the education coordinator, Derek Leslie. And all of this is great that students are being involved, but now I really want to see the AHS administration start making this outreach their own priority. And I'm glad that we have this student discussion because it shows one step forward, but there are several steps we have to take. We need to have better communication with all tribes, and we need to have a better survey of what all Apaches feel about this name change, not just from a small selection of people. And almost nobody who attends Arcadia High School, and I can say this myself as a student, can actually put a face to the Apache people. I mean, we chant their names at football games, and we try to make their identity ours. So if we're going to keep this emblem, which in practical use is really no different than a mascot, then we can at least form a strong bond with these people and not reduce them to a mascot for our own benefit and our own convenience. And something that I really want to touch on, and something that I really want everyone to consider as a critical point that's coming from Arcadia student myself, is that many of us who attend Arcadia High School are just simply uncomfortable with calling ourselves Apaches. And we see that some of us are already trying to distance ourselves from that identity. I'm a part of our school newspaper, I'm the publicity manager, and we had a unanimous vote last school year to change our name from the Apache powwow to the Arcadia quill, because powwow is an indigenous reference. We also see that color guard changed their uniforms to stop dressing as a stereotypical Native American. There are over 10,000 signatures on our Change.org page. AHS Change the Emblem has thousands of members in our Facebook group. We have thousands of followers. I think it's kind of apparent that a lot of students at Arcadia High School are just simply not comfortable with identifying as an Apache. And I myself, just personally speaking to all of you, I don't identify with that name. That's because I don't understand the history of the name, and just simply, I don't feel comfortable calling myself part of this tribe that has experienced so much horrible history, and I can't hold respect to that name by calling myself that. And students and our own opinions of how the emblem personally affects us is something that's not quite often talked about, so that's why I want to talk about this today. And I want to say, if our very own students are shameful and embarrassed to be at a school where our mascot is not easily defendable to the public eye, then I think that's where we need to start making change. Because I remember in my Apache class last year when Mrs. Moore, who just gave a presentation, we were talking about our feelings on the emblem. And I remember there was a student who said that she was at a golf game, and when she was talking to someone about how she was from Arcadia High School, that student was like, "Oh, isn't that the school that uses the Apache emblem?" And she was so embarrassed. And of course, this is more than just embarrassment for one student. This is a far deeper conversation than that. But I think that again shows that we really need to prioritize what the current students of Arcadia High School feel, as long as taking into consideration the opinions of the Apache people themselves. So, thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Catherine Chan, and I'm speaking as a current Arcadia High School student and as a representative of the Arcadia Civic Youth Council. So I'd also like to similarly acknowledge the Change the Emblem group, a small group of students last year who were also reaching out to members of the White Mountain Apache tribe to hear their opinions on our designation. And I'd also like to thank AUSD for allowing this event and to have such an outlet for this discussion. So I've noticed many sentiments against our designation. Their arguments for justifying whether or not we should keep it always goes back to like the history that we have with it. They say, oh, we should keep it because we've had it for like 50 years. But I'd like to acknowledge that Arcadia High School has been using the emblem, as I presented earlier, since 1953. And when that happened, it wasn't with consent from the tribes. It was actually just a city vote in Arcadia. And we've been using it with racist implications, not including but not limited to the caricature of Apache Joe in our yearbooks. And also we hear many derogatory remarks from rival sports teams that come to our campus as well. And before then, by 1997, that was when we finally got permission for it. But still, I don't hear that many students on our campus actually knowing who the Apaches are. And actually, before, I didn't know who they were either. I've heard many people around me also ask, what are the Apaches? They didn't even say who, they said, what are the Apaches? I think that goes to show like how dehumanizing having this as a mascot is. And there's also comments that I've seen on Thought Exchange saying that we have never dehumanized them, or that we should keep them because it suits our school. And so I think that what's really important that we need to do, no matter what, is spreading awareness on their culture, on their community, on their history, because there seems to be a lack of that in our community. And as someone said earlier, one of the speakers, we've heard from the chairwoman Gatewood, and she wanted us to keep the emblem because they wanted more representation, more awareness about their community. But the way we're representing it is not right. It's cultural appropriation, as we've seen with Arcadia powwow and even some color guard outfits as well. And to have their culture and community represented by one of the most prestigious public high schools, I would say, in Southern California, we aren't fulfilling this responsibility. So I'd also like to recognize that there's also an education coordinator from the White Mountain Apache tribe, and he suggested an alternative to this emblem, having us represent the eagle instead as an emblem. Because the eagle is one of the most prominent animals in their tribes that they represent. They value the eagle as a revered animal that has a significant bearing to their tribes. So I believe that as we continue our discussion, we should look to alternatives and also really prioritize what the White Mountain Apache tribe wants, and also prioritize spreading awareness. Thank you.
Sorry.
Awesome. Okay. Hi, my name is Carolyn, and I'm a current student at Arcadia High. I've looked at the Thought Exchange comments that were posted, and I've noticed kind of some overarching themes that have been going on with those comments, and I think I have some thoughts on those. I want to address them and kind of go over them real quick. Something that I see a lot of people talk about is how the chairwoman was really honored when she heard about our using of the emblem when we were talking to her. I happened to be one of the students that was in the Zoom meeting with her because we were CTE, we're the group of people who reached out to her to talk about that issue. What a lot of people don't know is that we never really truly got a chance to tell her about how the school would use, our school would use the emblem in derogatory manners. All she knew about was just the history, where it's like our old administrations went up to the tribal leaders and gave them like a very watered down, run down version of like what happened and what transpired, and completely left out a lot of the stuff that made the high schools that we visited like unhappy with our usage of the emblem in the first place. So when people say like, oh, the chairwoman was really happy with our respect for the emblem, that's not necessarily indicative of how we use the emblem as a whole. And I think it might be a little bit of a stretch for us to say that anyone could respect us saying something so derogatory about their culture. So perhaps if you don't understand why it would be hurtful to hear things like stupid Indian publication or scout the Apaches, then we can make this more personal, right? Our school has a huge East Asian population. I myself am Chinese. So if you heard someone say something like, oh, the Chinese dog publication, or like, stomp the dirty COVID bringers in the school, you can understand why people would be unhappy. So I'm not quite sure why that same empathy isn't translated over to the Apache people, because perhaps like we're far away from them or something, but I guess that's like, I wish that's something that people would consider more, that it's not just like a question of whether or not you are affected, but whether or not other people are affected. And as Kate and so many of my other colleagues have brought up, like it's very true that people have felt offended, both on our side and both from the Apaches. Something else that I've seen people talk about a lot is how there's a pride in being an Apache, and removing that name would stain fond memories and your pride. And to that, I would like to say this. If your pride has to be attached to a name, then perhaps you should consider what that pride truly entails. Because if your pride can be shattered by something as simple as a name, then is that pride truly so strong to begin with, right? Because if your entire identity and your entire experience as a past Apache can be completely shattered away by like not having this name anymore, then what exactly was your pride in being an Apache? Like, what made that pride? Like, what constitutes that? Because then it seems like there's not a ton of basis for like what you feel proud of. Shouldn't you feel proud of like the people that you met and the experiences that you made, rather than like this name that you embody? So I think that's something we should consider, that like there's strength in something beyond the Apache name that is like our own identities. It doesn't have to be the Apache name that invokes this pride. Another thing that I've seen people talk about a lot is, if it's broke, why not change it, right? Okay, so Kate and Catherine and Becky have all brought up how on our petition we've had over 10,000 signatures. So clearly something's broke here, right? But again, I think it's a question of like, how far back will you go? Because if you go back enough, you're gonna see like anything under the sun. There's weird stuff that's been going on here forever. It doesn't necessarily make it right. So emerging sentiments always kind of seem novel in the present, but that doesn't necessarily make them wrong. It just reflects what society's come to realize. Because if we as a society allow ourselves room to grow, nothing else is going to change if we don't do so, you know? It's not like an instance of woke culture. It's just giving us ourselves the opportunity to learn from our mistakes as time requires it from us. I also, with our meeting with the chairwoman of the White Mountain Apache tribe, she's mentioned that something that she would like to see is more initiative to implement education and kind of like education alternatives. The problem with that is like a lot of that has been left to the students, which is kind of hard to implement, as you can imagine. Like, how are we as like a group of like 5 students supposed to bring up this widespread curriculum when we aren't even Apache people? You know, that shouldn't be done by us. So I wish that that's something the administration would help us with, or at least help us with and put more initiative into, because that's something that the Apache people, which we've said that we would like comments from, have expressed that they would like to see. Finally, sorry, quick comment, yeah. If you have some more thoughts on this, we'd love to invite you after this discussion is complete to talk to CTE and some of our other members to form some connections. That way going forward, it's going to be a lot easier to kind of have more momentum and movement and make the changes that we want to see. So please stay afterwards if you want to talk to us. Thank you.
All right, thank you. That will conclude our evening. I want to personally thank everyone that is in attendance tonight. Thank you for coming and listening, and especially for those that had the courage to speak and share your thoughts and your opinions in such an articulate and passionate way. So this is a process, as I've shared. The next step is the board. The board can only have these discussions in public at a board meeting, not personally or one-on-one. They're a board collectively, not individually. So at our next board meeting, this would be an information item that they would have the opportunity to kind of share their thoughts, ideas, discussion back and forth. Not a decision. It's not something that's going to be, oh, we're doing this tonight, and they're going to make a decision at the next board meeting. They will discuss, look at the thought exchange, incorporate many of the emails, the things that they heard tonight. And if there's more information needed, that will come out as well as things that we may need to explore further. So I know a lot of people are just like, we want a decision. This is a big deal. It's a very complex issue, as many of you mentioned tonight, and it requires a lot of in-depth exploration before decisions made. So with that, I thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you for the trust and civil discourse and the respect that you have for